Hello everyone and our lecturer, Dr. Phua Ching Ho. My name is Evelyn Chan and my material number is 78865. And my group member is Pfizer, Rex, Priscilla, and Jongdem. Now we will present the empirical research analysis of the factor influencing the economic growth in the Malaysia.
My name is Faizul bin Abdul Rahman. Today I want to talk about introduction. Malaysia is rapidly developing Southeast Asian country with a diverse economy that has seen significant growth in recent decades. Gross domestic product (GDP) is a crucial indicator of a country's economic health and overall performance. GDP can be used to calculate specific goods and services or broadly for general price inflation influenced by factors like supply and demands, dynamics, production costs, regulations, and exchange rate. The unemployment rate is a widely used indicator of the labor market and overall economic health following International Labour Organization standards. Exchange rate, the cost of currency exchange affect international trade and currency transfers. It, it is influenced by GDP, unemployment rate, market interest rates, and economic activity of different countries. The studies aim to explore the changing factor affecting Malaysia's economic growth from 1990 to 2022. For the challenges, Malaysia faced challenges in maintaining strong GDP growth due to global economic uncertainty, commodity price fluctuations, and domestic structural issues. Next, political instability and reliance on imported goods have led to a sharp depreciation of Malaysia exchange rate, affecting competitiveness and economic stability. Next, hyperinflation or deflation may disrupt economic transaction, erode confidence in the ringgit, and negatively impact economic activity. And the last, high unemployment affect GDP by reducing consumer spending, lowering tax revenues, and increasing social welfare costs. For the objective to determine the relationship between gross domestic product, inflation, unemployment rate, and exchange rate in Malaysia.
My name is Priscilla Goh. Now I want to present a part is literature review. The first article is using the Uniroot test, BCEA, JJ, and the Granger consolidated test. The first result is shows the exchange rate and the GDP has the positive correlation, but unemployment rate and the inflation show the negative correlation. In the Granger test shows the positive correlation between the GDP, inflation rate, exchange rate, and the unemployment rate. The next article is using the linear regression that show the growing of the economy is significant impact by the exchange rate and the inflation rate. The GDP growth will causing inflation and the exchange rate increasing. The next article is using the OLS and the correlation test. It shows the negative relationship between the inflation rate and the GDP. The next article is using the data panel methodology. The GDP is shows an effect by the exchange rate in Indonesia. It shows the not relationship it will discover. Decreasing in the GDP will shows the inflation increasing. The last article is using the regression analysis and the OLS. That shows the result is positive line between the exchange rate and the GDP.
My name is Evelyn Chan and my material number is 78865. Now I want to present my part is data collection. We use the year from the 1990 until the 2022, and we source from the World Bank. Our use variables is for the dependent is gross domestic product (GDP) and three independent variable: unemployment rate, inflation, and the exchange rate. For the methodology, we have four types to test for our study. First is UniRoot. In the UniRoot test, we use the ADF test, KPSS test, and the PP test. For the co-integration test, we use the JJ test, and the gradual causality test, we use the estimation of the ECM and the gradual causality VECM. For the dynamic analysis, we use the impulse response function IRF and the variant decomposition VDC. Next, we will show our result for this study.
For the ADF test and PP test shows the null hypothesis has the uniroot, but in hypothesis 1 shows the not uniroot because for the ADF and the PP result shows the iron primary rate and the infection has the significant S level, but in the PP test shows the iron primary rate has not significant in track and inter at the level. After the first difference shows the all variable has not uniroot. This shows the log GDP as an exchange rate has uniroot in the level 1. For the KPSS test shows the null hypothesis is stationary, but in the hypothesis 1 shows the series is not stationary. The log GDP as the exchange rate it shows the not uniroot in the inter at the level, but all the variable is significant at the first difference, except the iron rate has not significant in the track and intercept of the first level. The infection is shows the significant at the level and the first difference. Exchange rate is significant as the first difference and the level with the exchange is not significant at the inter at the level.
The Johansson-Julius-JJ integration test is a statistical method designed to determine if a group of non-stationary time series variables are integrated. This test specifically applied to variable integrated at level 0, a post difference 1. The procedure begins with a vector of regression VAR presented in equation 7, where vector of variable integrated in 1 is designated by delta y, and U represent a vector of unobservable element. If the integral vector indicates stationary variable, the JJ integration test is conducted on variables like GDP, exchange rate, unemployment, and inflation as specified in equation 8. This expanded Julius integration test include vector of one variable delta y or coefficient matrix, constant vector alpha, the first difference operator, the length p, and error term. The outcome of this hypothesis testing of JJ integration test are binary: edge O no integration, edge 1 co-integration exists. This result provide insight into whether the examined variable share long-term relationship, contributing to a deeper understanding of the interdependence among them.
My name is April Chan and my metric number is 7 at axis 5. For the normalized co-integration vector test result, we can see the long run equation is LGDP equal to 37.79 minus 12.09 exchange rate, plus 5.76 unemployment rate, and minus 3.99 inflation. So we can see that the exchange rate and the inflation has negative relationship with the LGDP. This means when they increase the 1%, LGDP will decrease for the 12.09 and the decrease 3.99. But unemployment rate has positive relationship with the LGDP. So when the unemployment rate increase the 1%, LGDP will increase the 5.76. Now we move to the error correlation model result. This is our estimate ECM model. We also carry out the diagnostic test. This is our result. For the Jambera normality test, the result shows the residue of the data is normally distributed. For the series correlation LM test, we can observe that the variables are on the time series are not autocorrelated. In the ARP test, there are no heteroscedasticity problem. In the RESI reset test, the result is shown free from the specification error. For the last two tests are the Kusun and the Kusun square test. So for these two results, it's showing that the data is stable.
Next is the result for the Granger causality test. So the Granger causality test is a test designed to test whether there is causal correlation between the variable. So the hypothesis for the Granger causality test is that variable x does not Granger cause variable y. So our decision rule for the Granger causality test is that when the p-value is lower than 0.05, then we reject. So as we can see from here, none of the variables are showing that there is any causal association between them. So let's move on to the ECT, or our error correction term. So there we can see that there are three variables that are statistically significant, which are the GDP, the exchange rate, and the inflation, while the unemployment rate does not show any significant long-term characteristic. So for this part. Next, we move on to the impulse response function. So for the impulse response function is to demonstrate how the variables in a dynamic system are reacting to its own changes or changes in other variables. So from here we can see that there are 16 possible scenarios for the variables, and nearly all of them are showing no sign of dying off or becoming stable within the 30-year period or beyond it. So there's only one that is showing a sign of becoming stable after an initial shock, which is the response of the inflation to exchange rate. So when exchange rate affect inflation, for the first 5 years, we have shown that there is some declining pattern. And so let's move on to the last part, which is the variation decomposition. So the variation decomposition is done to ascertain whether a variable is exogenous or endogenous, and also to determine the causal relationship between variables. So from the result that we have obtained, we can observe that the GDP is largely exogenous, because most of the variation in the GDP is actually caused by itself. And for the exchange rate, the unemployment rate, the inflation rate, all the three are showing that they are having lower percentage of variation due to itself. So we can conclude that the exchange rate, the unemployment rate, and inflation rate are largely endogenous variable. That's all for this part. Thank you.
To conclude this research, stationary analysis, NDF, KPSS, PP tests were used to determine stationarity. GDP and exchange rate by first difference to achieve stationarity, while no stationarity problem was found with unemployment rate or inflation. Co-integration test, Johnson-Julius JJ co-integration test was applied, rejecting the null hypothesis and indicating a long-term connection between the variable. Normalized co-integration vector test reveal crucial detail about the long-term equation governing the relationship between variable. Exchange rate had a strong negative link with GDP, while the unemployment rate had a strong positive link with GDP. Economic implication: the exchange rate fluctuation negatively impact GDP, emphasizing the need for strategies to mitigate negative consequences. Recommendation include stabilizing the economy during current shift, implementing fiscal and monetary policies, promoting economic diversification, and export focused strategies.